Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Daily Dharma Gathering. Today is Friday, October 26th, and we are very, very happy to have Harry Einhorn with us this evening. We're having a little bit of an issue with Facebook technically tonight, so we're broadcasting this through the Daily Dharma Gathering page and on YouTube, and then we will post everything again on Facebook after the broadcast. We're still talking about basic goodness today. So I'll turn this over to Harry. And then at the end of the broadcast, if you have any questions, please type them into the chat box, or you can raise your hand and I'll put you on live with Harry. So without further ado, Harry, thank you so much for being here this evening.
I'm gonna open up by singing a refuge prayer in Sanskrit. Namo Buddhaya Guruve Namo Dharmaya Kayane Namo Samgaya Mahate Vidyupi Satatam Namo Buddhaya Guruve Namo Dharmaya Kayane Namo Samgaya Mahate Trityupi Satatam Namo Buddhaya Guruve Namo Dharmaya Kayane Namo Samgaya Mahate Chityupi Satatam Om. One of the unique aspects about the Buddha Dharma is that it is said to be a path of elimination, a path of elimination. And that's kind of funny considering that so much of the language that we use around practice has to do with accumulation. So you might have heard about accumulating merit, developing good karma, doing a certain amount of meditation practice, or a certain amount of mantra repetitions, or there's all sorts of practices where it seems like we're kind of building up. But as far as my very limited understanding of what this teaching is asking us and leading us and seducing us and tricking us, one way to summarize the path is moving from a place where everything that we do is so conditioned, from our interactions to our feeling of our own self-worth, our daily happinesses and sadnesses, they're all so tied to conditions. And usually those conditions have to do with the amount and quality of external validation of one's own narrative projection. Or we develop a mental narrative, we project it outwards, and the degree to which it is confirmed or pushed back against usually is what's creating the amount of happiness and suffering that we experience. And so, according to the teaching of the Buddha, this becomes very problematic because by its very nature, the feedback that we are so desperately looking for is fundamentally untrustworthy. Because by its fundamental nature, it is subject to change. And whether this change happens rapidly in a way that we can perceive, whether it happens slowly over the course of billions of years, whether it happens on an individual level, on a national level, on a species level, one of the fundamental truths is change. And as long as we are looking for any type of external confirmation, we're hooking or latching onto something that will ultimately become something else. But this change doesn't always only need to be understood in terms of loss. Because everything is changing, that also means that everything is arising. Everything is able to exist because of change. The Buddhist term for this is tendril or interdependent origination. Through the path of practice and study, we train ourselves to, first of all, on a intellectual level, maybe on an intuitive level, to not trust our projections. To introduce an element of maybe things aren't the way that they appear. As we become used to that, we develop a intimacy with change. Trungpa Rinpoche said once that the bad news is you're falling through the air without a parachute, and the good news is there's no ground. And this very groundlessness is the ground. That is the constant. And interestingly enough, when we begin to touch this ground through the practice of meditation and gain confidence in the ground through study and contemplation, this groundless ground and constant flux is not void. It's full of qualities, expression, energy, and an unconditional love. That, according to the teaching, cannot be stained, cannot be added to, cannot be taken away from, and is our very nature. But we still can't call it a thing. Because the moment we try to grasp or create another storyline, we're creating another condition. And this state of unconditioned being has sometimes been described as basic goodness. And we have to understand that this basic goodness is unconditioned, because ultimately we can't even say it's anything at all. And yet, we can see it everywhere, in the sound that the leaves of a tree make when wind blows through it, in the birth of a child, in the death of a loved one. In a moment when your mind just stops. And this basic goodness is not your basic goodness. And this basic goodness is there whether we're there or not. In the experience of coming closer to this basic goodness, sadness is very important. A sense of tenderness, and a poignant and real appreciation of how fleeting each moment is. By touching into that sadness and softness and tenderness, we begin to appreciate further the beauty of each passing moment. Appreciating without needing to own, without needing to record, without needing to confirm. The way that everything just seems to hang together and keep going. And out of sadness and tenderness, we can also experience a deep, loving kindness that's not based on revving up, something that's self-existent, something that can be uncovered. And because it's not a thing, and because it's not something that is being produced, its potential is limitless. And this is what they speak of when they speak of the limitless qualities of an awakened being. So by relaxing into what is and dropping our storyline, we can begin to actually appreciate the richness of what surrounds us without needing to add or confirm. So we're going to sit for a few minutes, and if you have questions, you can also type them in at this time. And for this, I'm going to ask us to just notice when you are seeking a confirmation. Don't do anything beyond that, but just try to have that intention or contemplation as we sit. Okay, just a few minutes. Okay. Thank you so much, Harry, for talking about our conditioning. Can you talk a little about our constant thoughts and how that relates to becoming unconditioned? That's a good question. So according to what I have barely understood and been taught is that it's the thoughts themselves are not the issue. It is the grasping and the storyline that is the issue. So thoughts are actually said to just be the natural process of the mind. The mind produces thoughts. It's kind of like a tree produces apples. But it's when a thought becomes sticky and then starts to repeat itself, and the extra work actually kicks in order to maintain that thought pattern. So that sense of maintenance, when that means we've added a layer. We go into a more conditioned space. So there's a lot of different ways to interrupt the thought process. One is through more of an intellectual inquiry of just asking yourself, where do these thoughts come from? Where do they stay? Where are they going? And then just rest. That we can be at ease. And being very gentle and patient with ourselves. That, I have to say that a Dharma practice can actually help on a really practical, down-to-earth level, but it takes some time. If there's no other questions, I'm going to end by singing a Bodhisattva vow, also in Sanskrit. Vyathagritam sugati bodhicitam purathanai te bodhisattva sikshaya mano purvya yathashtita tadvadutpadayamyesha bodhicitam jagadite talvadeva chatha shiksha shikshishyami yatha kramam. By this merit may all obtain omniscience, may defeat the enemy wrongdoing from the stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death. From the ocean of samsara may I free all beings by the confidence of the golden sun of the great east. May the lotus garden of the Rigdon's wisdom bloom. May the dark ignorance of sentient beings be dispelled. May all beings enjoy profound, brilliant glory.
Thank you very much, Harry.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.